Yo, 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 welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's Chris Furlong. I am your host, and today, once again, I am so thrilled to introduce to you another guest we have here on the podcast, and that is Lindsie Pere. Now, Lindsie, she's an amazing girl. She's doing some pretty cool stuff. Now, I met Lindsie a couple of years ago. She's been supporting the brand for a while, just with some modeling and repping some of the different merch that we've been presenting over the last couple of years. And what I love so much about Lindsie is she really brings the hustle. She really brings that boss mindset, and she is willing to learn and grow in order to make it happy. Now, she brings passion, she brings hustle, but she also bundles all this into custom and freelance services ranging from e-commerce, marketing, digital design, custom artwork, painting, and that is just the tip of the iceberg of what she is doing and what she's capable of doing. So in this episode, we really do dive into the world of becoming the creator you can be. And she really is a creator, a creative. She's doing some amazing work, and she's got a vast, broad area of expertise, and we do discuss on how that is possible for anyone to attain, and that's via the adaption of skills, growth mindsets, and getting your hands dirty and making it happen. And Lindsie is just that. She really does take us through the journey of what she has done in order to get to where she is today. Not to say that it's easy either, but she helps share that journey and how it is possible for us with the right approach, with the right attitude, mentality, and with some grit and hustle that we can make things happen and you can tread your own path. So really, really excited to have Lindsie on the show, just because I'm amazed by what she's doing. I'm very inspired by her creative talents, but also just the amount of things that she's juggling and doing at the same time. It's just really encouraging, and I love seeing the success in other people. So, however you like to listen, we do have the video experience. Otherwise, we are on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts and all those great places. So get comfy, get cozy, grab a cup of coffee, cup of tea, or however you like to listen, and let's just get into it. Welcome, Lindsie, to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast. It's so great to finally have you here. How are you doing today?
Really good. It's a beautiful day in Brisbane, finally, after it's been raining for 3 days in lockdown. So can't get better than that, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it's good to be raining when it's in lockdown, because last thing you want is it to be sunny and lockdown and then raining afterwards.
Yeah, nothing like looking out the window and not being able to go out there.
Yeah, no, we've actually had it pretty good this week in weather, but yeah, I think it's going to get pretty wet for the rest of the week. But less about Melbourne and more about you. So tell us about yourself. I know you're doing a lot of things. You're an amazing individual, but I don't want to sell you. I want you to tell us who you are and what you're all about.
Oh, cool. Honestly, just to kick it off, I actually have a huge background in science. So when I was in school, I did biology, physics, chemistry, all that jazz. And then I actually went on to study chemical engineering and mathematics in university. So I've completely strayed away from that path. And truth be told, I've never actually studied anything business, marketing, selling related ever. It's all kind of just come from being in the trade or asking questions here and there at work. So it is definitely one of those things that has been a massive, massive journey, I guess, trying to lean away from sort of the science kind of background, and people asking me like, why did you study this? And then I was like, shit, maybe I should just leave that off my resume, because it looks good, but it is probably confusing.
Yeah.
So a little bit about that, but I guess the main draw for me was just kind of moving into the business world was the streetwear aspect, and just the passion that I had for all of those sort of things like basketball, Pokemon cards, like, oh God, I had so many as a kid. So things like that. And aside from that, I just enjoy a lot of gaming, painting. Sleeping is one of my top 10 hobbies for sure. And yeah, so I will say though, there are some things that I have taken away from science that has helped me now, and it's made me really good with numbers. So there is that. But yeah, definitely my background is a little bit different to what I'm doing now. So yeah.
That's incredible, because I mean, it just goes to show you can never judge a book by its cover, right? Because I would never have known that. And why should I? But like, it's one of those things. We always see what we see on Instagram or on socials, or, when we meet someone, what they're wearing, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what they're into. But you never really know what people have done. And I've met so many people which have studied something, and then, people that have done psychology or wanted to be a vet, and then they're doing, testing in some, IT industry, and it's like completely different, completely irrelevant, but hey, they're where they want to be. And, you know, that was all part of the journey. And I guess that's all part of your journey too, because it's a big, it's a big difference. But I think that's what's so super cool, is because it just goes to show you don't have to go do the norm of go study business, go study whatever it is, to then do what you want to do or end up doing. And you're a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So with that then, so what are you doing at the moment? You know, I mean, if I was to sum it up, I know that you are doing all things custom creative, and you know, you're an artist, but you are doing a lot of things. So for the audience listening, if you had to kind of summarize yourself of who you are, what you're doing now, what would that be?
I think the two things I could really boil it down to is I would say I'm a custom creator. So anything that's, you know, shoes, art pieces, homewares, things like that. And we'll touch on that a bit later about what we're expanding into. But at the moment as well, we have the digital and service side of things as well, which is anything e-commerce, digital marketing, like website assist, things like that that fall into that realm is something that I can help with. And then if I can't help with, I usually know the person that you can get referred to have it done.
Yeah.
So just to touch on that a little bit more, I've got a new client coming on board hopefully from tomorrow. So for a streetwear resale website, so they're looking at expanding their website and just having someone kind of on the side to grow with the website and look after it and boost that engagement side of things with the community. So that's, I guess, the main areas that we kind of look at, as well as community boosting through the digital space.
Wow. So you're kind of like a jack of all trades, but master of none, or, you know, a Swiss Army pocket knife, because you're doing a lot of different, like that's a lot of different things. I guess they all kind of bubble over each other, and, you know, they have parallels and relevance, but it really does, because, you know, people that are working on a website, especially from the streetwear, but you having that, you know, that artistic background, that creative background, that's going to play big, you know, really well. And then from a social aspect, with your background in the social world and e-commerce, that obviously speaks even further wonders. So you've really set yourself up for success here. And I think that's what I love so much, is that you've done all this and you're so young as well.
Yeah, I think our main kind of goal with the digital service side of things is to kind of just give you a package of everything that you will need to start with, and the basic tools, and I guess the basic knowledge to kind of manage it yourself with a little bit of help here and there. And then moving on to further things if you do need, like agencies for ads and things like that as well. But just to kind of give you, I guess, kind of just like that starter kit website and social plan and marketing plan to kind of get you moving, sort of thing. And whether you commit to it or not, whatever, that's on you. But it's all laid out pretty finely, and according to whatever you kind of need, sort of thing as well.
It's really, really good. And I love that hustle. And I know you're strong, and, you know, we've spoken about it a lot, and you've already mentioned about building those skills. And I really want to tap into that first, because it really comes down to, like, in order to do more, it's not necessarily you have to go educate more, but actually get your hands dirty, get into the industry and develop those skills. So I guess in some sorts, you know, you kind of have that strong ethic of building and developing skills, whether it's in all the different areas. Where has that kind of come from, or when did that first kind of click to you that, oh, I can just do it this way?
I think it was more so through my job history. So my very, very first job, I worked at Target when I was like 14, and I was there for probably 3 to 4 years.
Right.
And then when I was 17, about to turn 18, going into uni and things like that, I actually went along with Maya, and I was actually a beautician and general makeup artist with them for a little bit. So that was kind of another thing where it was kind of like, oh, well, you know, I've stepped up just from general retail into something else that I actually had no fucking clue what I was doing. And I guess it is all about being transparent, because I was kind of, the way I kind of sold it was, I don't know what I'm doing, but I will know. And I'm happy to kind of be paid at the base rate kind of thing while I don't have the skills, but I want to make it clear that I want to negotiate this later kind of thing. And surprisingly, a lot of people are open to that. Generally, the people who are quite savvy in the business industry or have had, you know, their retail job for a long sort of time. And then moving through that, and then I kind of just started going up a little bit further and further each time I got a new job. So I moved on to David Jones, where I was a floor manager for a bit, and then I was assistant store manager with Giorgio Armani Collezioni. So that was another fun sort of thing there. And
Yeah.
I guess each kind of thing, I was picking up new skills each time, and I was kind of like, well, I'm getting paid to kind of be here, so I may as well leverage this time that I'm here to kind of learn new things. So it was always about asking questions, kind of expressing that interest to my bosses and things like that. Like, I do want to learn different key areas of the business. And then as well, it's just listening. Like, I would hear phrases being thrown around in the office, like before I was even in e-commerce, like SEO and like, all of these sort of things. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I'm just gonna go and Google it and, kind of at least know what's going on in the room around me, sort of thing, and just have that awareness. So I'm not just sat there like, oh, I'm a dad and I'm just gonna do my job, sort of thing. And I think that's one of the things, to me, it's really important in the business as well, is just making sure you have that self-awareness and having other people who are wanting to proactively come on board and wanting to learn those sort of skills as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of that as well, just like, I've lived by myself a lot of the time when I was in uni and things like that. And there was just things that I didn't know how to do. Like, I'm out here getting desks from like AliExpress, and I don't know if you've ever ordered anything from AliExpress, but the directions can be like so good or so bad. So I'd be getting like things that I didn't know how to build, like how do I clean my oven properly, and just things like that. And just really utilizing, I guess, the digital opportunity that we have. Just in this, kind of time, you can look up anything and learn how to do it, sort of thing, or like pay a small fee to do a course to do this and do that. So it's a lot of just, I guess, self-education and just making sure that you have the right connections in the community and in the sort of areas that you want to work in, to kind of just ask whenever you need help, which I do leverage quite a bit of as well. Like, I'll be perfectly honest, I have tons of friends where I'll message them and I'll be like, listen, like, how do I get my ROAS up by 0.75 in like an hour? Like, how can I do something like that? So it's always good to have that, I guess, again, transparency and the connections and just the drive to kind of think, oh, like, I don't know how to do it, so maybe I can learn how to do it. It might be faster than getting someone else to do it for me, kind of thing. So, and that's always been a tool that's been beneficial for me in the workplace as well, just being able to excel at all of my jobs and kind of secure the positions that I've wanted in future, sort of thing as well.
Yeah, I think it speaks wonders of the type of person you are, because as simple as that is, like asking questions or, trying to figure it out or being proactive or doing with intent, they're not actually things which are actually so straightforward to people. Like, I find, look, in different industries, I think it's, it would be different, but there's so many people that just want things given or handed to them or just made easy, whereas it actually would be made easy if you ask the question, if you give the intent, if you set the expectations. And I think you've said it really, really well, of going in there, asking the questions or setting those expectations around, well, here, I want to learn, not happy, I'm happy to not take a bigger pay, but down the track you would expect. And I think that's such a really great mindset and approach to it. Just your approach to all that, because as you said, if you can't do it, whether you can learn it or if you have a network of friends that you can lean on to be able to make that happen. Because, obviously, as you said at the start, you studied one thing and you're doing something completely different. So the only way to learn is to learn on the job, because, you didn't want to have to necessarily go do another 3-4 years in university to study those areas. Plus, you probably wouldn't even get all the skills that you've got now anyway, because you're going to get that surface level foundation. So it's really, really cool to hear this. And I would encourage anyone listening to just do this more. Simply ask the questions, see how you can leverage those opportunities, because even if you are working at Target or whatever, there's so much opportunity to learn from that. Because I think people don't realize, when it does come to a job is a responsibility, but it's also an opportunity, because you get to see things, you get to hear things and start to really get the feelers out. Whereas, you can go to uni, you can do all these things, but you don't get that industry experience straight away. So I'm really, really impressed by all this. And do you think then, because you've started to learn this way, that it's probably become more of a passion or a drive, and that's why you've probably dived into so many different things, because you are just you have that curiosity? Or do you think it's just something that's just come more natural to you?
It's probably a combination of both, honestly. A lot of the things that I have taught myself, I know are skills that I kind of need on a quite regular basis, or that I need to kind of maintain what I'm sort of doing, and also to assist other people when I'm doing their freelance work. There are times, obviously, where there's jobs that it would take me forever to do, and I've got to do like a whole other section of, I guess, the starter kit that they kind of want. So I'll seek advice from someone, for example, one of my friends who does ads, I'll say, hey, like, can you set up this campaign? Like, I'll just give you whatever your hourly rate is for however long it takes. And I just kind of take it at what I would have been paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a lot of that is kind of just about evaluating what your time is worth, because like I could definitely go and do the entire campaign, but I'm not going to be able to finish the rest of everything else that they kind of want. Which is going to be an even bigger loss than what, like, $75 would cost. And then at the same time, I'm helping out a friend as well, securing business. And it kind of just strengthens your networking as well. But yeah, I think a lot of that, again, comes down to value of time. Like you said it perfectly, you spend so much time at work. The way I kind of see it is like, you spend so much time in bed, you buy yourself nice pillows and you buy yourself a nice blanket, and why would you not put that same level of commitment and same level of leverage into your office job, where you're also spending probably the same amount of time, if not more, in your day-to-day life kind of thing. So yes, you are getting paid, and honestly, I get it. Some people, it's a shit job. I've worked in shitty jobs before, but there are always things to learn and take away from it. So just always to remember that and make sure that your time is valued as much as it can be, especially by your own self as well.
Yeah, correct. And a lot of the time it's hindsight till we realize how valuable those, those opportunities and jobs were. But, I think going in with that open mind and having that mentality of like, what can I learn from this? What can I, even if it is a 3-month stig, or, it's an internship or whatever, those are the things you want to milk as much as possible because they are that opportunity. But coming back to, when you said, when you're working with a client, you don't necessarily know how to do it. So it's kind of like that whole, it's a quote from Richard Branson where he says, when someone asks you, can you do this? You say yes, and then figure out how to do it. Do you think it's that kind of mentality? Yeah.
It is. And there are some times where I will be offered a proposal kind of upfront where I'm just like, no, like I definitely can't do this. But then I will kind of just say, hey, this isn't something that I'm willing to take on board at the moment, but I do have someone that can potentially do it for you, sort of thing. So that's kind of where I guess, so that's where the referral services kind of come in. So a lot of people do come to me and ask me things like, hey, do you know like a photographer, or do you know someone who does this and that? And that's not something that I dabble in, but know tons of photographers and have worked with tons before. So for example, I can just pass them along quite easily from there. So just different services like that on top too.
Yeah. And that's a really cool asset to have, to be able to flex or lean on those, whether it's for yourself or for other people. Because as you said, building that stronger business relationship, whether it's with the individuals that you are connected with or the client you're working with, it grows that bubble bigger and bigger. And, down the track, it starts to pay bigger dividends for those opportunities. So it's very smart thinking. Once again, I think it's very simple, but I think hearing it from someone, the perspective, it just gives fresh perspective, because a lot of us, all these things are, well, me hearing it's like, oh, that's actually so smart. Yet it's like, well, why wouldn't I have done that earlier, kind of thing? You know what I mean? So
I think that all the time. I'm like, I have like the simplest idea and I'm like, I'm a genius, but also I'm a total idiot because why didn't I think about this a month ago when I was having this problem?
But that's what it is. It's hindsight once again. So
yes, okay,
so you're doing so many things, right? So you've got, I know when we've talked about all the different hustles and side hustles you've had or in the past or doing now. You've got a business, you do the custom work. So let's dive into a bit more of that. And I think when we discussed last time, you basically would sum it up as a custom banner of work where you dabbled in audio stuff, websites, painting, you're a sneakerhead, so you do the custom shoes, the e-commerce stuff. So, and I know you already touched on a bit, but let's dive into a bit more deeper. What are you doing on a day in a life kind of thing? Like what are you working on?
What I'm working on currently is, at the moment, I'm actually redoing my stock room. To give you a quick little summary, there is just junk everywhere in the cupboards. Yeah, moving house is a lot of work. So at the moment, my day to day, I'm mainly just looking at trying to get this sorted. But at the moment, I'm taking on more digital clients just to kind of boost myself for the next financial year. So I always try and take people in around, May to July and things
Yep.
like that, so that we can kind of prep for the following year, sort of thing.
Okay.
So I've done a little bit of that. I've got a new client that we chatted about
Yep.
briefly before that I'm having a chat with tomorrow. So kind of see where that's going to go. The last couple of months, what I've actually been focusing on is just stocking up on a lot of vintage items, street items, collectibles, things like that. So I've got like pop vinyls, NBA
Yep.
tees, like all sorts of stuff coming through. But at the same time, I am trying to push through a couple of sales here and there. So I was able to ship out a Bear Brick yesterday.
Okay.
So it's a nice little peak for the middle of the week. But on a day to day, I pretty much just get up, I see if I've made any sales, anything that's been sold, I pretty much pack it up and book the shipping for the following day so it gets picked up. And then if I have any remaining, I kind of just hang around in the morning until the TNT lady comes and grabs the box. And then from there, I'll typically go out to op shops, things like that, have a little fish round, find a couple of things. And I actually go to quite a few around Brisbane. Like
Yep.
I'm driving around the most random places, like in the back of industrial areas that the Google Maps doesn't even know where I am, and I'm trying to find these
Wow.
like new vinnies that have popped up. So those, and at the moment as well, I am working on just getting my social media up and running to be more consistent, because I have been a bit slack with that, just with
Yep.
all of the stock focus. And just in the background as well, I've been stocking up on pretty much everything that I'm going to need for like the next year or two. So I've got
Yep.
paints, brushes, shelving, like
Yep.
all sorts of stuff. Renewed all of my memberships with some of my groups so that I can find, vintage or hard to find items so that I can
Yep.
bring them to the site. So just quite a bit of stock focus at the moment, but the day to day is pretty much just get the stuff shipped, check all my networking, list any new items that I've got, and then just finding anything new
Yeah.
in the meantime. So
And I guess so, for some context for that, is because you recently quit your job to go full time focusing on your creative outlet, right?
yeah,
On just doing all
yeah.
things you. And that was in the last couple of months, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that was actually it'll be a month and a half
Wow.
now. And what kind of prompted that is just like they weren't really being accommodating with some of the personal needs that I was kind of needing. And just with working from home and things like that, they kind of just weren't very accommodating for that, which is
Okay.
really frustrating in a digital role, particularly with
Yeah.
things like lockdowns and things like that here and there. So, and that's all good, so I can't expect them to work around me. It's their business, as disappointing as it can be.
Yeah.
um but yeah, so I was like, you know what, I might just quit my job. i I really don't need to do it. Like, I've had to have all this time off anyway, and you've not paid me for like 3 weeks, so I'm pretty much just
Yeah.
jobless. So, and through that whole time, I was pretty much just painting, getting some art stuff ready and making a few sales here and there. And it was just becoming, I was finding it like so exciting to have all of this free time,
Yep.
because I have honestly never been in a position that I've not worked full time, except
Right.
for maybe a 2 month period just when I was in between jobs, but I still
Yep.
had savings and things then. So yeah, it was a little bit daunting and definitely very stressful. Thankfully, I have my partner who's been super supportive, and he's like, "Look, if you don't want to go back to work, that's fine." And I was like, "Well, great, because I don't want to go back to work anymore."
He's just showing that he's strong. He didn't really have a choice, though.
Yeah, well, if he cried in the bathroom later, I didn't know about it. So
Okay, so then leading up to that, though, because I would love to kind of jump back a bit. Like, what was like your first side hustle or little business? Because there would have been a point when you were working full time and doing all the normal stuff, but you would have started doing things on the side. Can you take us through what was maybe some of the first things that you started to dabble in? Like, for myself, I started selling Yu-Gi-Oh cards when I was 12, right? And we all have
yeah,
those things that
similar.
kind of like pushed us across and always gave us that, whether it's that business mindset, entrepreneur mindset, or creative mindset. So can you tell us some of the things that you've done in the past? I mean, you might still do them now, but that kind of triggered it from an early age.
My first one, definitely a card one, actually, and this is really bad. Like, I used to tell my cousins, like, I was like 7 or 8 or something, and I would used to tell my cousins that all of their good Pokemon cards were like really bad, like horrible. And they'd be like, oh, like, I don't want them. Like, do you want to have them, or I'll trade you this for another toy? And I'd be
So
like,
bad.
yeah, like I'll take them. And then I would take them to school and I'd sell them for like $5, $10, or like trade them for like candies and stuff like that. And thinking back on that, it was really bad because $5 and $10 for some of those cards was so cheap. I shouldn't have done it. I should have
Yeah.
kept them.
Yeah, but back then, when you think about the relevance of money, like you would have felt like a baller, right? Because especially at that
Oh yeah,
age, I remember, getting,
$5 was like
I remember selling, I think it was the Exodia set for Yu-Gi-Oh! And I got $160 on eBay. And this is back when I was 12. So,
ooh,
just early, yeah, it must be early 2000s. And like I felt like I was a millionaire. Like, as a kid, 12, and you think because you don't have a job, you're getting a little bit of pocket money to get $160 from paying $20 to your friends for all their cards, and you've sold like 4 or 5 for 160. You're laughing, right? It gives you that
yeah,
taste of
and
like, this is so
it was
cool.
awesome. Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I granted my side hustles were a little bit scary to begin with. And then yeah, I just did a couple of things like that with their cards. And then as I got older, I was like, oh well, I can just sell like my own toys. So I
Yeah.
would like ask my mum to buy me something, and then I would try and sell it for to like another kid or something.
Wow.
So dumb.
Such a hustler.
Bad business model. Bad business model. So don't do it. But yeah, definitely things like that. And then as I got older, I think the most serious one I kind of was doing was freelance makeup artistry just temporarily. So I did a couple of bookings, formals, things like that, because I again went and studied that for a little bit, and then yeah, got a small qualification, and then didn't really need to because I kind of just knew what I was doing, and
Yeah.
people were booking just because of quality of work and because I'd previously worked at like Myer and David Jones and whatever.
Yeah. So
That was probably my next one. And then I just decided I didn't like doing that. I didn't like touching people's faces. Like,
fair
it's just
enough.
not for me. I don't know. Just one day I was like, this is kind of gross to me. And that's, everyone, some people like it, some people don't. I like getting my face and stuff done, but I just don't like doing it. So. And yeah, so that, and yeah, and then eventually I just kept trying to sell like random things, and sneakers were the ones that really hit because I had a couple of sneakers that I'd bought from when I was traveling and things like that I honestly didn't really know the value of, like, maybe 6 years ago kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, like I've had these for years, but they're worth heaps. So I just really love them. And so just kind of expanding into that, and also just having that passion for so long of loving those Pokemon cards that I had thrifted from my cousin. Sorry if you're listening. I don't think I ever told you that's what I did to the cards, but it all comes out. And yeah, and things like that. And then I think just being the ages that we are, it was streetwear is just like prime time,
Yeah.
like we grew up watching Nickelodeon and SpongeBob and
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse, and now all of that stuff is like really prominent in the art and streetwear industry. People
Yeah.
are selling like sideways sculptures of SpongeBob for like $5,000, and it's
Yeah.
just so interesting to me because like I grew up with that, and that's my nostalgia kind of thing. So I see the value in it, and whereas other people don't, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's where it's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's come kind of full circle almost, because even you've gone back to what you started with, and it's kind of funny because it's pop culture from our nostalgia years as childhood, but it's us buying that stuff all again. It's not like all of a sudden our parents are wanting to buy that stuff. It's just we've hit that age around the 30s where people now have money. That's the stuff they grew up with, so that's what's trending because that's who wants to buy it. And it's exciting to be able to, well, I mean, I'm not necessarily creating things, but I've started to purchase, well, trying to be sensible and responsible, purchasing Pokemon cards in the background and other things, because I never did it as a kid. But now that I can, and you want to be part of it, and it's just so much fun. And then I know that you've been able to apply that with all your creative work with the custom shoes that you've done. And that's really cool because you're literally taking your childhood memories, bringing it onto something which is, of an adulthood, or I guess, buying sneakers, whether that's of an adult thing or more childlike, I'm not sure. But it's that whole experience, because you're getting to enjoy that experience of creating the things that you love for someone that also loves it, and then they're willing to pay you big dollars for it, which is,
Yeah, I know.
it's
And
just an
it's
interesting
crazy that
model.
people do
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
it's crazy.
It's so joyful for me to be able to do that too, because 9 times out of 10 I'll do a shoot and I'm like, oh, like I really want to keep this one. But I gotta pack it up and send it away. So.
Yeah, because like these shoes, like you're customizing like Nike Air Jordans and things like that, right?
Yeah, quite a few Air Force Ones is usually the common one.
Yep.
Jordan 1 lows as well, and I do get a couple of just random shoes here and there in for repairs or like recoloring, redyeing, and things like that.
Yeah, okay.
I've actually got a pair of off-white Jordan 1s, I think, just right here next to me.
So you're not just doing custom; you're also doing repairs. You're also doing everything.
Yeah. So this is one that I did recently. I redyed the stitching because it was a little bit discolored from being worn out in the sun, and as you know, quite an expensive shoe.
Yeah,
so one of my very good friends trusted me enough to do it, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try. I'll do you a good deal in case I fuck it up.
So I gotta ask you then.
$15,000 to replace that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, so, and we don't have to include this if you don't want to, but do you have insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so we will include it then.
I'm insured. Don't come to my house.
Okay. So no, because, well, it was more because not for, people taking things away, but it's more that, doing that kind of custom work on something that's worth that much money. Like, I would be nervous as heck. Like,
oh man, I was so nervous. Like I redyed it on a day when no one was home. I put my cat in the bathroom, like on his bed. I was like, you're gonna have to just stay in here for 15 minutes. Like I shut all the windows, I turned off the fan.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think I even wore a shower cap because, as you can see, I've got a lot of bloody hair going on.
Yeah.
And I've had some incidents where I've been painting and then there's kind of just been like I'm like, oh, there's a brush hair there. And then I lift it and it's actually attached to my head. And I'm like, no,
that's
I've got to repaint this whole down. Yeah. So and it just sheds. It's bloody irritating.
But it shows it shows the quality and the attention, or the attention and quality that you want to have. And I think it comes back to what we started with is getting that experience, because there's no way to learn that other than doing it, unfortunately, right? It's not like you can test. I mean, yeah, you could do it on a $15 pair of shoes, but a $15 pair of shoes compared to 15,000, obviously they're not 15,000 brand new, but when they come out, they're a high quality shoe. So the only way to do that is to build your way up into getting your hands dirty with it, right? And then exploring. And I think that's what's really cool for yourself, is because there's no way to be able to train that in the creative element, because the creative element is all custom, right? Well, it's custom from someone else's choosing, or custom from your own creative outlet, which means that brings a whole new complexity to it, because you can't learn that. You literally have to go in all in and just write it out and see, okay, is this going to turn out the way you want? And then you can probably fix it up as you go. But that's not an easy gig. Like,
no. And to anyone listening, honestly, like I have fucked up tons of shoes. So don't get me wrong. Like, it's a long journey, and it is an investment, because you're out here buying like $150 pair of Air Force Ones.
Yeah.
And what I would recommend to anyone who wants to try and have a go or get into the custom gig is get one pair and test every single thing that you need to on that one pair, because you can rip the panels off, you can stick them back on, you can throw paint on it or throw silicone on it. I don't know, light it on fire, maybe do that at the end. But so I definitely have made the mistake of getting like a whole pair and trying to do like one whole design from the get-go without forward planning, or just like not having the correct knowledge or paint that I needed, and it's just fucked. Like, there's no other word for it. I'm just gonna kind of repurpose it, turn it into like a feature piece in the house, or redo it and like kind of sell it kind of thing.
And it's a reflection of your progress as well, right? Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, so
it's good to have, because then you can look at those and be like, true. Well, that didn't work, so I'm not going to do that again.
That's true. It is, because it's always nice to, as much as we don't realize it, how far we've come, to be able to have those, things to reflect back on, look back on, and see where you started. Because I can only imagine that, when you first customized, well, your first shoe ever, that even getting into that process, it's a scary thing, because even if it is for yourself, you stuff it up, $150 down the drain. At the point in time, you feel like this is crap, this is ridiculous. You have that deepness into your heart, and you're like, oh, what have I done? That regret. But as you move on, the next one gets easier, the next one gets easier, and that part kind of becomes the thing that enabled you to go to where you are, like to shoot for the moon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The first shoe I actually did was a Jordan 1 that I'd worn, oh my God, so many times, like to festivals and things like that. Like I've got photos of me in these shoes, like at the festival. And I was going to throw them away one day. And then I was like, why do I want to throw these away? And I was like, they look like crap. And well, hang on, like why don't I just do something about that? And I actually kept them, so I still have them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just great. If it is something that you definitely want to try, I'd suggest doing it on an old pair you're about to throw away, or one that you've worn once maybe in the last year is definitely a good idea.
Okay.
Especially with beaters, because you can just throw glue on those, you can rip them off, and they're kind of just already in the worst state possible. So the only place you can go is up in a way.
That's true.
Yep, so that's always a good place to start. Definitely don't buy a brand new pair of shoes for your first try. I wouldn't recommend it. You are just going to be heartbroken and upset. We've all been there, so try it on an old pair.
Could you not literally go and purchase old sneakers from the thrift shops, customize them, and then be able to upsell them anyway? Like, I mean, surely that's a thing, right? Like
Yep, you definitely can. There are the only limitations with that, obviously, is just finding the styles that people want, and then also just with sizing as well. And what I have found a lot of thrift shop shoes tend to be like mesh and canvas and things like that, which are a lot harder to work with, a lot harder to repair than what I guess leather and synthetic leather is. But there are definitely quite a few pairs that I've picked up and cleaned up, and even not even just customized, but done a couple of repaints on the sides, and I've just sold privately to friends and things like that for a little bit of a higher price. So there is always opportunity there, and I do definitely look in the shoes first when I go to the op shop. So
well, it's an interesting thing, because obviously I'm always buying and selling from thrift shops to resell, but that brings a whole different element, and it just goes to show that once again, that one man's trash is another man's treasure, but in so many different ways, whether it's to customize, whether it's to uplift, whether it's to resell, or whatever it may be. I think that's really, really cool, because, well, there's probably not enough of it, to be honest. I mean, the reselling's good because it's moving on and we're not necessarily just putting things to waste, but that takes it to a whole new level. And, you don't just do that with shoes. Have you do that with other things as well, like that you would buy?
Chairs. I actually use quite a bit of fabric and stuff in my customs as well. So my very first pair of customs was a Dragon Ball Z Goku shoe that I just tore the front of like this old t-shirt that I bought off my friend, and it was like not the right size. I just ripped it off and stuck it on the side. So yeah, a lot of that. I use tons of fabrics and prints that I find in the op shop that, you'll look at it and be like, oh, it's from last year. It's not necessarily vintage. It's not going to be worth anything to anyone like this. But if I strip this off, slap it, on a shoe, slap it on, patchwork it over another shirt, even something like that, it's going to be higher in value just because you put that creative spin on it. And then it's also just about how you kind of sell it and who you're selling to as well, just to get that value.
So cool. Yeah, it is. And it's really great to be able to see how, you walk in and you're going to look at things all differently and see how, oh, I could do this, could do that. And then someone else would look in and look at it completely different. And I think it's just a lot of respect, because your line of work is, well, one, it's, really, really bold in terms of being able to go out there, put the creative space to work and just make things happen and make dreams happen for other people as well. So it's really cool. And with that in mind, so, we've talked about, touched on, we haven't even dived into the details of everything you're doing, but you are doing a lot. But I know that you're currently working on a bit of a launch. So I would love to hear for the audience, what are you about to launch, and what will you be providing for people?
So we are hopefully launching the website end of July, start of August. So it's pretty much just going to be one-stop shop where you can buy essentially every single item that I have listed anywhere. So anywhere that's on eBay, Depop, Instagram, it's all going to be funneled into one spot. Easy shipping, easy pickup. So it's going to be like new pop vinyls, old items, collectible things. So a combination of that. I've got a couple of different vendors as well that I'm looking at local to Brisbane that I'm hoping to try and sign on board to get some brand new items with. And then you'll also be able to pretty much order your own custom through there. So I'm currently building a bot at the moment where you can go through and do your order selection. So like, you want a black shoe, this size, what do you want on it? You can write whatever you want. And it'll kind of just flow from there. Don't want to give too much away because it's a big build on that. But yeah, so pretty much it's going to be all in one on the website, and you'll be able to access bookings for all of the digital services as well, contact lists for referrals and things like that too. So yeah, that's all coming, and we're hopefully adding to our custom pieces in the next 3 to 4 months. We're going to be doing rugs, so hopefully going to get a tufting gun and some big canvases and things like that, so I can get started on those because I'd like to have some rugs up for Christmas. So
absolutely hustling. This is awesome. I'm so thrilled. I'm excited because I just get super excited with all these things, and not that, you know,
I'm excited. It doesn't even feel like work.
Well, that's true as well. But I always love seeing what other people are creating and, you know, how they bring it together. And it's I mean, that's what I love about this podcast, is hearing all the different stories. So let's touch on about you becoming your own boss. And I know it's still early days, obviously, because you're about to launch and all that jazz, but you have been doing things for yourself. But, you know, I guess taking that chance, and you kind of already answered it before, you know, taking that chance to kind of like, well, you know, it's not working out at work, I may as just go do my own thing. Do you think that's because you've built the confidence over doing the custom work, the side hustles over a long period of time, that you kind of just clicked? Or do you think it was that you were just sick and tired of, you know, the same old jumping around, or work not being that, you know, that 100% security kind of thing?
I think it's a bit of both, because it's not like I just woke up and was like, oh, I'm going to quit my job and do this. I've had a lot of backing. The last year or two, I've collected so much stock and, got a lot of referrals and got a lot of sales through. And I do have people I can rely on to continue selling to privately, or who do book my services regularly as well.
Yeah.
So I guess, it's about being a little bit about being sick of the job, and then also just having that opportunity to do it whilst I have done all of this work, you know, in the past. I definitely wouldn't be able to do it with an empty room or anything now if I didn't have stock, or if I didn't have the website already. Like, I've already got the domain and stuff, and I've had it for over 6 months now and things like that. So it's little bits of things that you do definitely need to consider before you're going to just up and quit your job, but it is minor things, and it is definitely doable as long as you're going to put the work in. And it is a lot of work.
So you've kind of like been building up to it, knowing in the back of your mind that, well, one day it's going to happen. It was kind of just like, you're just waiting for it. And because you said, you know, you've had the domain name for 6 months, you've been working on the stuff anyway, it was kind of like, well, it just made sense because of the timing. And sometimes, you know, you hear a lot of the time when people's, you know, what was the moment that things change, and usually it's a life-changing event. Or for me, you know, starting this podcast, I just kind of clicked through COVID that, you know, there's more to life. And sometimes we need those moments, but sometimes it's not. It's just the timing is right. And I think that's really great. And it's always encouraging to hear it from everyone, and yourself included, because for those that are listening, it's exactly that, right? You know, there's never going to be a perfect time. There's only going to be the right time. And it's when it makes sense, right? Whether it is you get that big pivot point in life, or maybe you just realize, like, the thing's staring you in front of, you know, under your nose kind of thing, and it's just glaring at you to say, hey, let's do this. So I think you've summed it up really well, because you know, I don't think people should wait around for things to go wrong, but they should also, if you are working on a hustle, work on it, and then when it's ready to go big, you know. Don't try and just go cold turkey, drop everything, and
for
start
sure.
from the
And
bottom.
Start little. Like, even if I know there's people out here working like 40, 45-hour weeks, and I get it, it's hard, but, you know, take that, you know, that little day where you're out at the markets or you're out at the shops or something, and pick up a couple of, like, you know, t-shirts from the op shop, or, you know, buy yourself a $20 pop vinyl that's in the special edition line or something like that. Something that you can, even if in future you are just going to list it as retail, those little things really help you build your website and kind of showcase what kind of items, I guess, that you can expect to have, or things that you can kind of get. And it just really helps you establish that.
And it builds the experience. Once again, it's
exactly.
Until you do it once, you're not going to be able to do it at scale. So I think it brings that confidence, and it can be scary trying to do that. I mean, even, you know, you make a sale and then it's like, oh, now I have to ship it. And that can be daunting in sometimes, especially pop vinyls, you know, because the customers usually want them perfect, immaculate with no,
Oh God, yeah. I'm
you know,
so nervous when I wrap
I've
that.
learned that the hard way. But that's exactly it. You have to learn only by doing it. There's no course to how to ship pop vinyls. I mean, you can look it up on YouTube and someone will give you a guide, but the way I would usually say it is like, well, how would you want to receive it? And that's going to be your answer,
Yeah.
unless you don't care about quality, which I don't think many people, I don't think that would be many people, then that's going to be your answer, you know, usually. Now,
Yeah, exactly.
with all this, you know, you really do come across as, you know, that hustle, the boss girl vibe. And I love your mojo and I love everything that you're doing and your drive to make that happen. What would be, I guess, you know, some of your tips, or, you know, maybe there's a secret to it, or maybe there's not, it's just you of who you are, to kind of bring that to life? Because have you always been that way, motivated, hustling? And I know you touched on it, you know, you were always looking for the opportunities, but do you think that's from an upbringing, or just because, you know, your view on life and how to, you know, take what you want? Or yeah, where does that come from?
Probably a combination of both. Like I lost my mother from a young age at about 14. So I was in foster care for a little bit, but my foster care family were actually great.
Yeah.
There were some times where obviously we didn't get along, which is to be expected. Like they've pretty much just thrown a child into your house, so you may not get along with them. So I get that. But they're amazing and they're great, and they were always supportive with all of my ventures. Even if it was with a little bit of headbutting to begin with. And I think, again, tracing it back, it again comes down to how you value your time. Like if you know that, the way I see it is like people are out here getting paid like, you know, $35 to $45 an hour to do stuff. And it's like, if you value all of your time like that, then, you know, you start to really consider like, is this worth my time doing? Like, is this something that I want to be doing in future? Like what's the risk versus reward kind of thing, even just in like your day-to-day life. Like sometimes I'm like, do I want to microwave this pizza and it's going to be kind of shitty, or should I like just wait the 10 extra minutes and stick it in the oven and it's going to be even better kind of thing? So it's just like
It's
apply that
analogy.
everywhere.
Yeah,
apply it every single place you can, and it just becomes muscle essentially. The other thing that I would say is criticism. Like definitely take criticism where it's needed or where you feel it's needed. There are obviously people who are just going to criticize you for the sake of criticizing you. And you know, being a girl in the industry, we do kind of come across it a little bit just, you know, in a sexist kind of way, or just being belittled and things like that. And it's important just to remember that a lot of those people don't have the drive, don't value their time the same way you do, because if they did, they're not going to sit here and just be criticizing your business while you're kind of just happy doing what you're doing and helping other people sort of thing. And there's people like that in every single industry, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but it is important to kind of step back when you are criticized, to step back and kind of analyze your business and be like, well, is this really relevant? Is there any substance in this? And, you know, perhaps other people are seeing it's the same way too, but just don't want to say anything. So that and time management. I used to be so bad at time management. Like I would just get up, I'd F around for like a couple of hours, I'd go to work, I'd come home, I'd F around for a few more hours, and then I'd go to sleep. So it's just about kind of getting that motivation, even just to do a little bit of work, like even just to sit here and do this hour and a half podcast, like just put the time in, make sure that you are doing valuable things with your time, and ask for help. Like honestly, ask someone. If you know someone who does ads and you need help with an ad, ask them. The worst they can say is no, or you've got to give me $20 an hour. So
no, I think that's really, really good advice, and it's practical and it's relevant, and it really does come down to a mentality, you know, to an approach and attitude. And you know, we're all going to have those different ways of viewing approaches and attitudes and mentality, but I think, you know, when it comes down to understanding what you want, whether it's purposeful work or you want to have a certain lifestyle or you're passionate about something, is don't just think about it, but actually taking the action. And you've done that, right? And it seems very clear that you're doing that throughout your journey, no matter where you are in whatever position you're in, whether it is working at Target or working for yourself or jumping around in the different jobs, because it's those moments where you can actually go into one and how you view it. I mean, you can view a job as a job and cool, I'm getting, you know, X amount of dollars each week, or I'm using this job to be able to learn this so that I can get onto that next thing to build my skills, so that my, kind of coming back to what's the value of your time. And once again, that mentality, it's not something that's very evident or taught, from an education bare bones built up, in high school. The only way to really get that is there's no secret way. It really comes down to once you start to understand the ways things operate, and once you get out into the big wide world and things like that. And I think it's really, really exciting to hear how you've been able to find this so quickly, at an early age. And I'm not saying that this is all going to be perfect and that you've got it all figured out, and you still might pivot or whatever, but to know that, you're going in the direction where you want to be right now, and you've got that purpose, you've got that passion. It's really encouraging, because people should realize that you don't have to do all the, the nitty gritties, 9 to 5 and all that jazz for the sake of doing it. If you want to start something, you can, but those other areas will help you get to where you want to be as well. It's once again, I'm very, very inspired by what you're doing, and I'm very encouraged by it. So I want to touch on, and you've kind of already mentioned it, because you're going to be doing your launch and whatnot. But I guess if we look ahead, between now and the end of end of the calendar year for 2021, what are you currently, I guess, your focus? What are you going to be focusing on for the rest of the year? Whether it's around the business, whether it's around personal, is there anything that you're really focusing on?
Yeah, so just obviously the web launch is going to be a big one, just making sure it's up and running, looking all smooth. Ideally, I want to have a lot of new custom products for Christmas. So just mentioning before, some rugs. I've got like a couple of chairs in the works as well. I'm starting to run out of space in my house. So yeah, looking at those, and then kind of just reassessing by the end of the year what our travel opportunities are going to look like, because previous to COVID, I would have done a lot of traveling and did want to continue to do traveling. So one of my favorite places to go is Japan, and I go back to the USA quite frequently because that's where I'm from. And I've got a dual citizenship from there, so it's quite easy to, it's super easy to travel. And I'm just kind of thinking of like opportunities of bringing back stock and things like that as well. It obviously is super limited at the moment with COVID, and shipping delays are kind of frustrating with some international vendors. So it is a bit of a waiting game, and I don't necessarily want to do contracting or anything until it's a little bit more solid, which is kind of why at the moment I'm focusing on hopefully bringing in a couple of brands from the Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne areas, just to kind of supply stock onto the website. And then also give those brands, I guess, an opportunity and a platform to like have their stuff sold, without having to go into like a serious major contract thing with like a massive company. So just working on a couple of small things with stock, and then just really website focused and bringing on new clients for digital as well.
No, that's really exciting. And you're right. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where the rest of the year goes with travel and all that, whether it's for personal or for work relations, because it's one of those things that, a year ago you take it for granted, and now it's kind of like, it's like, oh, when can we move? Even as simple as, you can be in lockdown 1 week and then you're fined for 3 months and then you're locked down again. So it is, I know it's different across all around the world, but here in Australia, that's what it's been like. So it's all a bit touch and go, and it changes really, really quick. Which, brings its ups and downs, and it's a chance to maybe get things done that you wouldn't do because you're locked up at home. But it's all about taking those moments as opportunities. Okay, so it's really, I'm excited to see that website launch. I really, really am, to see all the services, and not that you've overhyped it or anything, but I know the quality of your work, and I've been following and seeing what you're doing. So I'm excited to see that next phase to what's to come from there. So what I'd love to do is jump into some rapid fire questions, just different things, which is for the audience to enable them to, learn a bit more about you, which are a bit more random. Of course, try and answer them short and sharp, but if you can't, that's fine. If you want to, dive into some value points, that's 100% fine as well. So the first one is favorite book or podcast or audio book that you've listened to or consumed.
Okay, my favorite audiobook is actually just this random one that is this dude reading an Edgar Allan Poe book, because I love Edgar Allan Poe, and his voice is just like this guy who reads. I don't remember his name, but it's like butter. It puts me to sleep. My favorite.
Okay, well, there you go. And that's fine, right? And I think that's, it helps, carve who the people are that are on the podcast. And I love that we all have those weird and wonderful things. A couple of sources of inspiration that you would go to.
Well, again, definitely Edgar Allan Poe, one of my favorite poets. He's the one who wrote The Raven. A lot of people would know a lot about that one. They did like a Simpsons episode and shit on it. Keith Haring, he's one of the major artists who was part of the LGBTQ movement. So he did a lot of like the one everyone would know be the red hearts with the smiling faces and things like that. There's some things on my page with Keith Haring on it if anyone wants to have a look. And probably my third source of inspiration would be my mum, who, rest in peace, dear Maria. She was honestly light of my life and always inspired me to do more, be more, say more. She was an amazing woman and was a trauma surgeon and with Doctors Without Borders as well. So she was always, making moves and trying to help other people as well.
Yeah. So that's clearly where some of your hustle and drive and do more comes from then.
Yeah. She was a great woman and was always trying to give me the best of the best and all of the expensive Pokemon cards. So thank you.
That's awesome. That's sweet. Favorite food?
Oh, pizza.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, love it.
That's
all
awesome.
Pizza and pineapple on pizza with me is okay.
No, that's good to know because it's one of those controversial topics.
Yeah, so before anyone asks, it's okay.
I love how quick you answered for the pizza. It's great. 3 things you love to do outside of all your hustle and businesses.
I actually like going to the gym. I've been quite stuck with it lately, but I love the feeling of going to the gym and also the sauna. Oh, love that. I love looking at pop vinyls. Like, I know that does have something to do with business, but sometimes I just like to go and look at them and just be amazed at how many different ones there are. Like, I've only just discovered that they have like RuPaul's Drag Race pop vinyls, and I'm stoked, and I'm gonna have to go and get those too now. And outside of that, I have quite a few pets as well. So I love just looking after my pets. I've got a cat, a dog, a tank of fish. And recently we've added a bird to the family. So that takes up a bit of my time. And I just like to look at them and talk to them and tell them that they're beautiful and, as pet owners do. So
that's awesome.
It's just little self-care things like that I love doing. So
no, I totally agree with the pets. I've got 4 chickens and they're the best thing for like just to hang out, have some mental health chats, and just, they're just so funny to watch. They're just because I don't know if it's because they're stupid or just because they're so curious. It's just great.
Funnily enough, my ex-partner, we had like an argument once because my auntie had like this blind chick that had hatched from her chickens, and she's like, I need someone to look after it. And I was like, please, like, can I look after this blind chicken? And he's like, no, like, where are we gonna put it? And I was like, we'll do up the deck, we'll put some wire around it. No.
Wow, the commitment. I love it.
Huge respect for the chickens. I want one.
One thing that you cannot live without.
Oh, hard one. Actually, you know what? YouTube. That's like this, it's a random one, but I would not know half the stuff that I know now without YouTube. And also, just sometimes I like to sit on the couch and put on those like 10-hour visualize screen things and listen to music and just sit there and think about my day. And I think that's a super underrated, I guess, tool that people don't utilize as much anymore.
True.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I agree with you.
But yeah, I love it. I use it for everything, like cooking, just putting on random shows, music. It's just great. And now they've got ads that are like entire films, which I don't understand. But
it's weird.
But go do it.
And now that's some good advice.
I sat through about like 20 minutes of one of the ads once, and I was like, this is actually a feature film in an ad.
Well, because
why they do this?
Because anyone can create an ad, right? So like I can create an ad, and then it's my video that's getting played to other people, but as an ad. So it's like, I guess it's a whole different level to marketing, but it's very interesting. But I totally agree.
Like, we're going to put a whole movie in there.
Yeah, I totally agree with the YouTube thing. It's an untapped it's really more of a search engine. And obviously it's like that, you can get stuck just scrolling and going through, but there's so much value on there if you're really on there with intent, and untapped things, which, we probably pay for or pay other people to do when, coming back to your value of time, where you could probably just watch a video for 5-10 minutes and like, oh, okay, the answer's right there. So that's some big wisdom tips right there, because people, there's opportunity out there. The next one
Yep, and if you
is,
are
yeah,
reading, if you're a reading learner, just put the subtitles on. That's what I do. I can't sit there and listen sometimes. I
yeah,
just put the
okay.
subtitles on.
Do you ever do like double time speed or anything?
Oh yeah, God
Yeah,
yeah, that's
all the
all
time.
through uni. 2.1 speed. Like
Yeah,
you're talking too slow. Let's go.
yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. That's a good one to save time.
Yes, that is a good one. Definitely use that tip.
Biggest lesson that you have learned?
Um, well, probably just don't be afraid to take risks, even if it is a financial one.
Yeah,
But if you are taking a financial risk, please just know if it is a risk and
yeah,
what the risk versus reward is
yeah. That's
going to
true.
be. For example, like what I said before, I bought shoes that I worked on and just they're pretty much totaled. Like not even insurance could save these. So definitely that, and just when you are kind of I think something again that actually really helped me is go on YouTube and watch a tutorial of what you want to do. But while you're doing that, get a little pen and paper or your phone and just make a note of each tool that they're using.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people won't list it, or it'll just be something that you don't think about when you go to get all your equipment, and then you realize it's a vital thing. Like for example, when
yeah,
I went and bought all of my first shoe stuff, I totally forgot to get an X-Acto knife, which is like super important for cutting down the tape and shit like that. So
yeah,
I couldn't really do anything until I got that. So I had to go back to Office
yeah,
Works. And if I just had have done what I just mentioned, I wouldn't have made that mistake.
yeah.
So
Eh,
again, just
yeah.
leveraging other people as well. Do that.
Well, that's right. Success leaves clues, and it's something so simple that you don't really you don't really focus on that, because now I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's so true, because you're so focused on the thing they're trying to create, yet you're not seeing all the things of how they're making it happen. And unless they're saying go buy these 5 tools, it's not really getting embedded. So yeah, taking those notes, I think it's a very, I mean, with anything, right? I think it's very valuable. Always with the nuggets.
Mm,
The last one for you
yeah.
then is you win $10,000. What do you do with it?
Oh, tough one. I would probably $10,000. What am I winning it from? Did I just win it randomly, or did I have to
So
compete in it? I
no,
feel
no,
like
no,
there's
no, no.
different value.
There's no catch. It's just like you've got
All right.
someone gives you 10 grand out of nowhere. It's just, you know, no catch. It's all yours. You can do whatever you want with it. What are you doing with it?
I'd honestly probably buy shares into some of the things that I am passionate about, or buy licensing to some of the things that I want to sell. So I am aiming to have like a Funko Pop license so I can start selling
Wow.
them as a wholesaler with them. So probably looking at seeing if I can make any purchases that way through licensing, or what I would do as well maybe is open like a brick and mortar store, because then that way you are a little bit more open to getting licensing and
Yep.
things like that. And places like Nike and things like that will be willing to work with you if you have a physical store.
Wow. There you go. That's
So
really
one
cool.
or the other.
I
Investments.
yeah, no, I love those answers, because I always, well, I've started to ask a few different people this, and it's always great to hear and there's no right or wrong answer, right? And that's what I love about it, is how we all do things differently and apply things different, whether it's to different values or different priorities and things like that. So that's really, really cool. So it's been an absolute awesome episode, because you've taken us through so much, and there's probably so much more that I would love to know and tap into. But I would encourage the audience,
I'll come back. I'll come back another time.
well, we'll have to. But if the audience, if you guys have questions more, what Lindsay's doing and what's coming up and whatnot, go jump over to her socials. That's all, of course, in the show notes below, and she's going to go through that in a second. But before we get to that, I wanted to give you the chance. If there was one thing that you could leave with the audience from this episode, what would it be?
If there is anything that you are super passionate about and super good at, and you are kind of just wanting to know what you can do with that kind of thing, definitely just look it up. Like look at ways you can monetize. How can I start my own pest control business? Like how can I make money from gardening? Just anything that you do day to day, try that. Like I tried gardening too, honestly. I used to make terrariums and stuff for
Yep.
girls at the office, and they'd buy those, and things like that. So just work out what your skill is, what it is that you love doing, and try and make that your 8-hour job. Like
Yeah.
if you can just really commit to that 8 hours a day and be happy about it, then you're winning no matter how much money you're making.
Such great advice. And where is the best place for people to follow along, in whether it's socials or a website? Where's the best place?
The best place for now is going to be our Instagram page. So we've just recently launched Facebook about last month, which we're still doing a little bit of work on. But Instagram is going to be our key one, and where we're going to do all of our website launch as well. And we do have a Discord, which is just for private things as well. So if you're like a wholesaler or an artist who wants to chip in or potentially be part of the journey, we can do referrals for that as well if you'd like to join.
And your Instagram is?
QustomQicks with Q's.
Yeah, of course. This is all in the show notes, and you can see it all. But just so you can hear it in case you are, listening while driving or something like that. So, yeah, you've heard it all here. I mean, Lindsie is an amazing individual. She's doing lots, and she's done lots already. I'm excited to follow your journey, and I'm so excited to see the launch and everything else that you come out with. Because I mean, you've touched on so many different things. Even when you talked about your terrariums just now, I know you've done so many different things.
We're not selling those. Sorry.
No. I know that. But what I love is that you've hustled across so many different things, or because you've got an interest or a passion or whatever it may be. And that's what I love is that, you give everything a go. You've tried different stuff, and I'm excited to see what's to come next. And I think anyone would be stupid not to go check out, what you're doing, not just to go buy, but to go just follow along and see what you're doing, because you are a really big inspiration, and I think a lot of people will be able to learn and get some inspiration from you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Cheers. Well, there you go, folks. What an awesome episode. And Lindsie, really do appreciate you coming on. What I love so much about Lindsie is exactly what I said at the start, is her hustle and grit, and her just her drive to just become her own boss and take control and do more. And I think that's the key takeaway for this one. For me anyway, is, when it comes to building skills, sometimes your skills, yes, you can go to university, grab the skills all you want, but the skills are going to come from learning and putting yourself in positions where you can learn, where you can be inspired, be influenced, and get those opportunities to develop your skills. That's how you're going to be able to get them quicker than anywhere else, plus in the right field. So be willing to reach out, to take action, and give yourself a challenge, because that's when you will get outside your comfort zone and grow that little bit quicker. And she really does express and share that in this episode. So thank you so much, Lindsie. I'm excited to, be part of Lindsie's journey, and I've been watching what she's been doing for a while, and I do encourage everyone to go check out her content, go check out her Instagram, as she has shared, obviously, all the show notes below, and jump on over there and have a look and see what she's doing, see what she's creating. Of course, her website will be up soon as well. Maybe there's something that you would need from her in terms of some custom work, some help, or maybe you just want to do some business with her. But go check it out, go support her, go encourage her. I'm excited to see where her brand goes and all the exciting things that she has to come. You've heard it all here first on the episode. So yeah, get excited, get behind her. Really do appreciate you all being here listening. And look, once again, this podcast is about sharing people's experiences, sharing people's lifestyles, and sharing people's ideas, and just diving into what opportunity is out there for people to attain if they're willing to go after it. So I really do hope you have been inspired, encouraged, and motivated to maybe try something, give something a go, or to pursue that change in lifestyle. Really do appreciate being here. My name's Chris Furlong. I am your host. It's been an absolute honor to be able to bridge this conversation between you and Lindsie, and I really do appreciate it. Now, if you didn't know, we do have the podcast merch, and this is with a key focus of enamel pins. Now, if you haven't checked these out, make sure you do, because the intent of these are really just to be a small token and a reminder for you to charge on, to push on, and to further your lifestyle. Whether it is a gift for someone else to encourage them, or maybe to inspire them, or maybe it's a way to motivate yourself, or you can simply just make a purchase to simply support the podcast, which would be greatly appreciated. We do also have some sweaters and some long tees, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description and in the show notes. Really do appreciate it. Cheers.